Welcome to the Mio on MMA podcast, where I'm going to talk about last night's UFC card, UFC Yusuff versus Barboza, which I think was, God help me if I can ever remember this, but I think it's like UFC Vegas 81 at this point. Another show at the Apex, another kind of like, really good main event, but not really supported by anything super interesting. Not that there wasn't anything interesting. There were some fun fights on this card, obviously. It was not a bad card by any means. I really enjoyed Jonathan Martinez versus Adrian Yanez, although there was some drawbacks to that. I really enjoyed the main event. That was phenomenal. I enjoyed Christian Rodriguez versus Cameron Simon. I enjoyed Darren Elkins versus TJ Brown, even though I was cursing TJ Brown the entire time. Terrence McKinney got a nice knockout, and Melissa Dixon picked up a debut win that it's kind of weird. If Melissa Dixon was like 5 years younger than she is, if she was in her late 20s as opposed to early 30s, I would actually have really good hopes. Unfortunately, that's not the case. I think Chris Gutierrez also had a really solid performance against Alatang Haili, which deserves a lot of credit and a lot of love. That being said, we also had some influencer boxing this weekend. We had the Misfits boxing card with Logan Paul versus Dylan Dennis, KSI versus Tommy Fury, and we also had Pat Milicic versus Mike Jackson on some card somewhere, which greatly confuses me. Here's my take on, and this is a take I've given before, but this is my take on influencer boxing. If you enjoy it, cool, awesome. I enjoy pro wrestling. I'm not going to stand here and tell people that, like, man, what you're into is like trash. I'm a combat sports fan and a pro wrestling fan. It doesn't get much trashier. But I have no interest in influencer boxing because it's low level boxing. And the second thing is I hate all of them. Like everybody that I listed there, the 6 people in those fights. I don't hate KSI, but like I don't like KSI. So he's not a face. To use a pro wrestling parlance, he's not a face. I hate Tommy Fury. I hate Logan Paul. I hate Dylan Dennis. I hate Mike Jackson. I hate Pat Milicic. So it's a lot of heel on heel matchups, with the best case scenario being a tweener in KSI who I don't have strong feelings about one way or another. I guess I have negative feelings because he's part of why this influencer boxing thing is so big. The only thing I will ask influencer boxing people to do is keep it separate. Let's not confuse this for actual combat sports. And I'm not saying it's fixed or whatever. I'm just saying, let's not talk about like, oh my God, the Paul brothers are so good at what they do. They're amazing boxers. They're not. Jake is fine, actually. For considering how long Jake has been boxing, he's actually reasonably competent. But Logan is terrible. KSI is not particularly good. And Tommy Fury, for a boxer, is not particularly good. And Dylan Dennis is a garbage. And to be honest, Dylan Dennis, I hope, off of this whole thing, is just done. I hope to never hear about this guy again because he's cringe as all heck with his way of trying to promote the fight with like what inevitably actually probably falls afoul of like revenge porn laws. And, it goes out there. I haven't seen the fight. I have seen like, I want to say a solid 3.5 minutes of the fight in the form of GIF form. And I know GIFs, you're losing context, whatever. It's like the man went for a guillotine choke and a double leg takedown and got blitzed on basically without response from Logan Paul, who, again, is not good. I have no idea why you would want to see this guy in another influencer boxing match because he's just not going to fight. And I have no idea really why anyone wants to see him in MMA at this point because he doesn't take it seriously. Like, it's been documented that this is a guy who doesn't take it seriously in the gym. His coaches honestly hate him. And there's not much else to go on that. And then the Pat Milicic fight was just, like, sad. This is also why, please God, do not let Mark Coleman do this influencer boxing stuff. I don't want to see a guy in his late 50s boxing. I don't. I do. Especially one that has had, like, legitimate health problems and, like, a hip replacement stuff. Don't want it. Don't want it. Please don't. Let's get into the fight card because let's get some positives going here. The main event between Sadiq Yusuff and Edson Barboza, this was phenomenal. This was like kind of the best and worst of Edson Barboza. In the first round, you got a Sadiq Yusuff coming forward, pressuring, aggressive, being multi-level with it, attacking the body, attacking the head, rocking Barboza, making him uncomfortable, doing his thing, and utilizing the clinch. That I want to say Sadiq Yusuff has a judo background. I'm not 100% certain he does, but like it might just be a BJJ background. But like he's historically been pretty good in the clinch. He's doing everything possible. 10-8 round. He has Barboza hurt numerous times, and that it's classic. It's like great. Oh Lord, is he going to gas? And then in the first half of the second round, he keeps doing it. He keeps pressuring. Now Barboza's still very composed, throwing spinning kicks to the body, doing the Barboza things, working the body. I was watching with Byron, and Byron's like, man, he's going to just like strike that liver right out of his body. And I'm like, damn, that's pretty effective. But he's doing the same things and he's winning. And then Barboza starts to turn it around by the end of the second round. He's turning it in his fight. He's getting on the front foot, working his kicking game, looking very comfortable. Yusuff is looking a little sluggish, a little tired, a little worn down, unfortunate. And basically from that point onwards, he never really gets back on the front foot. The third round in particular is particularly bad. I scored it a 10-8 for Barboza. He dropped him with the spinning back kick, outlanded him something like 60-10 in significant strikes. It was a great round. And then the fourth and the fifth are certainly good rounds. Don't get me wrong. Like I feel like I'm kind of underselling this, but like realistically, it's Yusuff being unable to get back on the front foot and being competitive with Barboza when Barboza's on the front foot, but at no point having prolonged success. It's all momentary success where like he would hit a nice hard right hand or something, but Barboza would be coming back at him and doing his thing. Like you need to pressure Barboza. You need to take him out of his comfort element. And Yusuff could not do that after the second round. So I scored rounds 1 and 2 for Yusuff. I have no problem if you scored the second round for Barboza, for the record. I scored it for Yusuff. That's the only toss-up round of this fight. And I gave it a 10-8 in the first round. Some people are going like 10-7. I think that's a little bit much. But like I think it's 10-8. Chris Lee can go get fired because he scored it a 10-9 for Yusuff. That's ridiculous. That's insane. I scored the third round a 10-8 for Barboza and then 10-9s for the fourth and fifth round for Barboza. No problem. Barboza wins. I had Yusuff winning. I feel somewhat vindicated in the sense that Yusuff went out there and did some of the things I thought he was going to do and why I picked him in the first and the second round, and they worked. He just wasn't able to keep it up. He wasn't able to take that success early and turn it into any kind of really consistent late round success and allow Barboza to do his thing, to work the spinning kicks to the body, to throw some beautiful combinations, some stunningly good counters. Barboza, even at the age of 37 years old, he's out there still getting it done. And he's still like a top guy. Like legitimately, I think he's ranked like number 12 or something on Tapology and probably higher on the UFC's roster. So he's doing amazingly well. For next opponents, I have Edson Barboza fighting Giga Chikadze 2 because I do want to see a rematch of that fight. I really do. I think it'd be great. And Yusuff I have against the winner of Jonathan Pierce versus Joe Anderson Brito because the winner of that fight is going to be trying to break into the sort of upper echelon of the division, top 20 or so. And Yusuff is kind of the guy who we know is good. I said this in the preview, but like lacks a signature win. So he kind of ends up in that guardian role. That this is the top 20. If you can beat me, you're top 20. But I'm going to be very hard to beat. So that makes a lot of sense to me, particularly if it ends up being Joe Anderson Brito. If it ends up being Jonathan Pierce, I'm not super interested. Because I'm just not super interested in Jonathan Pierce. Like, full stop, honestly. That's more about Jonathan Pierce than anything about the fight. Vivian Araujo, Jennifer Maia. I did score the fight for Jennifer Maia. I gave her the first and the third round. I have no problem if you gave the first round to Vivian Araujo. Let's have a look at the stats here. I'm always curious about the stats at a fight that is super close. Let's see here. Looking at the stats, it's actually worse. Maya outlanded her 24-14 in the first round. Second round was just all control by Araujo. Obvious 10-9. There's nothing really to work with there. In fact, Maya landed apparently 0 significant strikes in the second round. So yeah, obviously lost that one. And then in the third round, Maya outlanded her 17-8. Scored a couple takedowns even, although Maya did get more top control time. I'm having a hard time getting super mad about it, but I do really think that Maya won this fight. But at the same time, I guess Araujo winning is I don't know. I guess in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter because with both of them, they're in their I want to say late 30s. 35 Maya, 36 Araujo. So it's not like they're this up and coming generation of middleweight or not middleweights, flyweights, like Aaron Blanchfield, like Alexa Grasso, who's taking the belt, like Manon Fiorot, I suppose. Like they're not in that group. Whatever, cool. This was just kind of a stay busy fight between two vets, so I guess it doesn't really matter. But I do think Maya won. I do think she was getting the better of the stand-up. And granted, I understand that Araujo had a lot of control time. I'd be actually concerned. I'd actually be interested. What round other than the second round did she get? I actually have not looked at the judges' scorecard on this particular fight. MMADecisions.com. Are you not working? Figures I'm recording here, and MMADecisions.com has decided to, there we are, not be super productive. Let's see here. It was the first round. Okay, so they gave the first round. Again, I'm having a hard time getting super mad at it, but she did get doubled up on output. There wasn't anything super clean, super damaging, super impressive. I don't know. I'm not mad about it, but I'm at the same time just I'm having a hard time picturing really what led to that scorecard. I'm mad at Chris Lee for not scoring the first round of the main event, a 10-8. I can't say I'm mad here, but it would be interesting. For next opponents, I've got Vivi Araujo against Natalia Silva. I've got Jennifer Maia against Tracy Cortez. I think that's a really good fight because something Maia is very, very good at, although she did get taken down in the second round here and controlled, is nullifying wrestling and making it very, very difficult. And that's the thing that I still have as a question mark for Cortez is we saw a little bit more of her striking game against Jasmine Jasudavicius, but then but it wasn't very convincing. And I want to see her try. I want to see her fight someone good enough as a striker, which Maya is, in my opinion, to make her go to the wrestling and then also be able to fight her in the wrestling phase and see what happens. That's what I would love to see. And then the Araujo Natalia Silva, I think it's just a fun fight. Jonathan Martinez versus Adrian Yanez. This fight made me angry at Yanez and angry at his corner. Essentially, in the first round, Martinez is out there chopping at his leg, giving the calf kick, boom, 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 and Yanez is getting nothing done. Martinez is doing a great job at disrupting his jab, making that not really a thing. He's not getting his intros. He's not managing to get combinations going. He's just getting picked apart. And, he's starting to hobble. I think at this point he was also bouncing on one leg at this point. That might have been in the second round. I'm trying to remember. But I think, he was. Yeah, he was. He was bouncing on one leg in the first round. Leg is done. He's falling on his butt in both the first and the second round. And then he goes back to the corner. And his corner is just all right. We need to go for we need to establish the jab here, my man. We need to do it. No technical advice, no nothing. And he just goes out there. He just keeps getting his leg kicked up. And I've said this number of times. I want to see the towel thrown in because you have your fighter out there, Adrian Yanez, who is resorting to going for body locks, and he's on one leg. You cannot produce the kind of power that you want. He's falling over. His leg is collapsing under him. He doesn't want to give up. I understand that. That's admirable. That's respectful. That's the fighter mindset. You're supposed to protect him from himself. And eventually the referee did that. And I don't blame the referee because every time Martinez knocked him down, Yanez would just he would back up and wave him back up. There wasn't anything to stop. Realistically speaking, he could get up. So it's not up to the referee in that case. But eventually he does and just decides, I'm not a sadist and I'm watching this, this man get just his leg destroyed. He's just taking damage. That's ligaments, that's bones, that's muscles. That's everything getting just damaged that could earn him multiple months on the shelf after this, depending on how, depending on what ends up being injured. It's ridiculous. We had another fight like this with Chris Gutierrez and Haile Alatang, but like Haile Alatang, it was worse in this one because they're just like Giannis was clearly not able to put power. Like Alatang had some actual success in the third round. We'll talk about that fight more in detail, but like it was just getting worse and worse and worse for Giannis. And I'm very disappointed in Giannis and his coaches also for the prep because, my guy, you're fighting Jonathan Martinez. This is what Jonathan Martinez does. This is not surprising. This is his game. This is what he brings to the table. Why are you not more prepared? Why is this such a problem? Why do you have so few answers? Because it's not like he's physically incapable of competing. A big thing I had was I thought Giannis was the better athlete of the two. That's why I thought this, largely why I picked Giannis. I'm like, come on, you got to be able to find a way to navigate through the leg kicks, to establish some things, to get some combinations going, something. And it didn't happen. So I'm a little disappointed by that. I want to see Giannis take some time off, regardless of the injury situation, because I think that man needs to find himself right now. He needs to reflect and figure out what he's doing because there's a very, very good fighter in him. But the Rob Font fight, that wasn't good. This fight, this wasn't good. And it's not the losses. It's not the stoppages. It's nothing to do with that. It's that the fight IQ, the game plan, and the confidence to a certain degree were absent. For Martinez, he called out Merab Dvalishvili. He shouldn't get Merab. I have no faith that the UFC will do Merab properly here, but like Merab should be fighting for the title. So for Martinez, I got like Yadong Song. I'd like that. I'd love that. That'd be a big fight. Michel Pereira nuked Andre Petroski. Not really much else to talk about there. He landed a couple of big kicks early, dropped him with a punch, pounded him out. That was it. Petroski just, gets taken to the wood chipper and thrown in there and destroyed. Pereira did bring out an Israeli flag. This is going to come up now that the flags aren't banned. I'm going to say this, and I'm just going to leave it at this. Well, two things. Number one, my support is for the civilians in the Israeli-Palestine conflict on both sides. And there's an F word I'd like to ascribe to the IDF, Israel Defense Force, and to Hamas. I can condemn both. That's a novel idea to some. But here's the thing: if we're gonna let UFC fighters bring flags to the cage, it's gonna be some stupid stuff. Like, these are UFC fighters; they could punch in their head. They're, let's be honest, a little bit brain damaged. And at the end of the day, we get what we get. We'll probably get someone bringing out a Palestinian flag at some point. So whatever. And we should just probably ignore both of them and just chill on our way. I had a tweet to the effect where I'm like, man, they're MMA fighters. Don't take them as your political compass or your moral compass. Like, that's a terrible idea. And that's all there is to it. And it applies to like athletics in general. For next opponents, I've got Pereira versus Mikel Oleksiejczuk. I think that would be a dope fight. And for Petroski, I've got Bruno Ferreira in another of the various grapplers that Petroski can try to prove that he is the best grappler against. Opening up the main card, we had Christian Rodriguez versus Cameron Simon. I had Rodriguez winning all 3 rounds, but there was a lot of closeness. If someone scored this fight for Simon, I actually don't really have much of a problem with it. But essentially the problem was neither of these guys could control the other. Like, they're both good enough scramblers that it just kept being scramble. I thought Rodriguez had the better striking. He's landing a little bit harder, a little bit more impact. Round 2, I think, is the one that definitively was Rodriguez's, and that's why I do think he should win. But if you gave 1 and 3 to Simon, I'm not disappointed about it. I thought this was a very good fight. This is a very interesting fight, very fun fight. But I think it also does show the limitations of both these guys. With Rodriguez, I think it's a physical thing. He's a little bit foot slow for the 135-pound division. He also missed weight coming in at 140. It's the second time he's missed weight, I do believe. And that's a definitive problem because this guy is not big enough at featherweight. We saw him against Jonathan Pierce. My God, no. 145 is not an option. You got to sort this 135 thing out. Like you're 5'7", not particularly thick, and a little bit pudgy. So theoretically, this should be doable. This is not an Anthony Johnson situation. This is not a Michel Pereira, to call back to the prior fight situation where like someone is cutting just way too much weight. No. 135 should be very doable for Rodriguez. We'll see what he can do. But he got the W. He got the W on this one. It's a big win. Probably not the biggest one of his career because, of course, Raul Rosas Jr. is very, very high profile, even if he shouldn't be. And for Simon, the problem is this is the first time you've had an opponent who was good. No disrespect to Mana Martinez, but by the UFC standards, not good. That had a full camp to prepare for you, and he was kind of ready for a lot of your crafty kick stuff and a lot of your scrambling, and was able to find answers to a lot of them. So it's time to figure out what to do. For next opponents, I've got Rodriguez against Miles Johns. I think that'll be a fun fight. And I've got Cameron Simon versus Christian Quinones, because Quinones is, and it's not just because he's Mexican, but like he's kind of got similar aspects where he's a good scrambler. He's a sharp puncher. He's not super athletic, so it's not a step up in that regard. And he's crafty, or at the very least high paced, and is kind of like, all right, Simon, here's a selection of similar problems. What do you bring to the table this time that can improve? Because I think that they are dedicated to trying to make Simon a thing because of his links to Dricus du Plessis, but I could be wrong. Darren Elkins, feature prelim in 2023 in this economy and getting a win. TJ Brown, this was a fun fight. I want to say that, but this was also a dumb fight for TJ Brown. There was a moment in the first round where he managed to get up after scrambling with Darren Elkins and then throws him down with a big double leg slam. And it's like, yeah, but now you're back on the ground with the scrambliness of Darren Elkins, and he's going to out scramble you, and he's going to take your back, and he's going to control you, and he's going to do his thing. And that was the thing. And then the second round was kind of the same thing again, where like Brown would get up and then he would drop down for a double leg, and he would take down Elkins. He put him down on his back, and then you're on the ground with Darren Elkins. Do not do that. Do not be that, because when it was on the feet, outside of like a decent like opening right hand by Elkins, which by the way Bisping was trying to hype the shit out of Elkins' boxing. I don't know why. Brown was winning. The low kicks were there. The counter strikes were there. He was able to stuff some takedowns. In the second round, he had a lovely, lovely knee to stuff the takedown. Like it was like, change levels. Boom, counter knee. It was good. It was great. There were moments where I'm like, my God, TJ Brown has got this. He knows what to do. And it's like, but you're fighting Darren Elkins' fight. And I know he's 39 years old. I know. But don't do that. Elkins came up on top with a rear naked choke in the third round. It was a hell of a throwback performance. He looked even barely damaged up, which is incredibly rare. When was the last time we saw the damaged Darren Elkins come out of a fight and just be like, kind of like, fine, not look like he'd been in a complete war? It was super fun. Like I said, if you're a fan of like grappling scrambles and stuff like that and wrestling, this was a good fight. But it was me like going, come on, Brown, why are you doing this to me? Why? He was out of gas in the third round. And I think the problem probably is that like TJ Brown for a long time has not has by his own admittance not taken MMA as seriously as he should. He's been, the party guy, the wild and crazy guy. And I think that catches up to you against a guy like Darren Elkins. Because you're not. Maybe you don't have a great game plan. Maybe also in fairness to TJ Brown, I don't think TJ Brown has ever had a fight where like just being the kickboxer was actually the path to victory. So maybe that was my problem, is that I'm like, you know what? There's this way that TJ Brown could win this fight. He's a far better striker than Elkins. Elkins is one of the worst strikers at 145. He could just do that. And I'm like, so much of his game though is like just scrambling and like counter scrambling though, and he's going to do that with Elkins, and he's going to lose. For next opponents, I've got Elkins against Daniel Pineda in a battle of the old men, or if he's not fight Clay Guida. I know Guida I think is at 155 now, but hey, why not? It's not like Elkins is making a 145 title run. And for Brown, he kind of goes back to this welcome wagon thing where like he's an excellent dude to put up against Dana White Contender Series fodder and stuff like that, because he's not a phenomenal athlete, but he's a good enough athlete to test people. He generally does a little bit of everything, so he's going to, have some ideas to do something to just about anybody. And the UFC Dana White Contender Series is producing increasingly like really raw talents, and like Brown might be a good like sorting stick for them. Tainara Lisboa versus Ravina Oliveira was not very good. All right, let me get the positives. So positives for Oliveira. The third round was her best round. She won the round. She went back to her corner. They read her the riot act about doing some different things, and she went out there and she did good work. She regrouped. It shows that she has that heart, that dog, which I kind of was concerned about in the first round, because in the first round, Lisboa lands like a good 1-2, like decent power shots, and like from that point onwards, Oliveira is like way outside. And like you look at her on the regional scene, and she's a girl who like would charge in and be kind of like crazy and aggressive. And then she's in there with somebody who's good, not even particularly good, but like better than a step up. And she's kind of frozen. So the fact that she came back in the third round and did her thing was pretty good. And in Lisboa's case, I mean, she has some definite building blocks, some skills. Like she has a little bit of Muay Thai ability. She is strong. She's got some physicality going for her. Oliveira, by the way, looks like a flyweight, not a bantamweight. And that's about the only fun I can have with that, really. They were trying to complement their grappling when they were on top positions. Like, oh, they're actually really good grapplers on top position. I think the answer was really that they're just both very bad off their back. And as a result, they were able to control. It reminded me of I had a pair of friends in high school named Kevin and Garrett. And they were very into grappling and BJJ. But they didn't take BJJ lessons. They didn't go to the gym. They didn't go to the school, which was a shame because we had a pretty solid gym right down the street. Well, not right down the street, but like, close enough. And I tried to get them to come with me like a number of times. Never happened. But they would like, we'd be hanging around and they'd be like, hey, look at what we know. Look at what we know. Like, look how slick my guillotine is. And it's like, you're doing it to like a guy who doesn't know what to do. That's the problem. And that was this fight to me. For Lisboa, I have Nora Cornole, because I actually like a lot of what Cornole's putting together, and that would be an interesting fight. If she can get past Lisboa, maybe there's things to do there. And for Oliveira, I have fodder, because she's a little bit too small for the division. I don't think she's athletic enough at 125, because 125 is a much better division than 135. And I mean, she's 26 years old. She can learn. She can develop. I'm not closing the door on her. Like I said, that third round was like very promising that like she didn't give up. But this was a wake-up call for her. This was a confrontation with somebody who had some physical ability to actually hurt her, to stop her. And initially, she did not respond well to that. So, I don't know. The book is not closed, but the book is not exactly promising. Terrence McKinney wasted Brendan Marat. I was saying Marote for some reason. I don't know what fight. Maybe I heard that said. I don't know, or maybe I've been watching too much Quebec MMA lately. But yeah, McKinney smashed him with a big knee and then finished him on the ground. Did his thing. 20-second stoppage. Beautiful. Done. I don't really have much matchmaking notes for them, because like with McKinney, it's like this is what every McKinney fight looks like. He's going to do really, really well for the first round, and then if the guy is still there, he's going to fall apart. And if the guy's not there, he's going to get finished. And it doesn't seem to really matter the level of competition, frankly, at all. It's just kind of like durability. And for Marote, I did it. Marat, I would hope he gets another fight, because like he stepped in short notice for the UFC. He stepped in, but like I'm not really interested. He's just not very good. So whoever needs a fight near the bottom of the division, throw in him against some Dana White Contender Series stuff, or like kind of a similar role to Mike Breeden is in with the company. And then the other bantamweight fight for the women, Arina Alexieva versus Melissa Dixon, which I took Alexieva in, and I bet money on her at an underdog, and she lost. Now, that being said, I enjoyed what I saw from Melissa Dixon. Don't get me wrong here. I do think that there's a lack of elite talent there, but like her heart, her scrambling, her, I don't want to say fearlessness because that's not necessarily it, but like her composure, there's the word, in the face of aggression is pretty good. Alexieva came out throwing a lot of kicks early on, and I think that didn't work out because I think she gassed herself, honestly, because she went away from them. Like the kicks were actually semi successful. Like they were doing a good job of working the body and the legs of Dixon. Like that was mostly what she was succeeding on. Her hands are so bad, and her head movement is so bad. Like Dixon was able to find and just like pop at will in the face with like counter punches, even though she's not super fast and pretty foot slow actually, and not the greatest like boxer in her own right. It's just Alexieva is bad. Alexieva also has to rethink that haircut. Alexieva did go for a rolling knee bar at one point. It didn't work out. She was able to get some takedowns, but like in general, Dixon was able to out-scramble her, put some work in. Alexieva did win the first round, in my opinion, just because of the early on going. But at the end of the day, Dixon looked good. She's just kept scrambling, kept getting top position, kept doing some good things. It's painful because they're both in their early 30s, but like I do actually kind of want them to be good because I want this division, women's bantamweight, to have success. And Dixon is a perfectly solid addition to the division, I think. But we're missing something that leads me to believe that she's going to go places. And I want her to go places because she seems I like the interviews I see with her. I like her idea, her attitude to the fight. I just think that she got to the game a little bit too late, and maybe, I don't know, but she gives me the feeling that probably lacking a solid athletic base to begin with, which does tend to be a big problem in women's MMA. For next opponents, I've got Dixon against the winner of Lucy Pudilova versus Eileen Perez, and Alexieva I've got against Haley Cowan, because Haley Cowan's another one who I think has some physical ability and just has to sort some things out, and maybe putting her in there with Alexieva would be like a way to do that. And then Chris Gutierrez just pantsed Haile Alateng. Like, this was another case of like, you have no answers for the low kick. You're trying, you're charging forward, you're trying to do something. Your leg, despite being looking like a rock Pokemon at one point, is functional. You're not hopping around on it, but like, no, Alateng didn't really have much of an answer. Got some good stuff in the third round with Gutierrez. I think was starting to have some fun. Like he was throwing out like an Eminari roll, for example, and like a lot of spinning stuff and, you know, hands down a little bit more. I do think that Gutierrez's hands down style is a bit of a problem because I think at some point that's going to get him just like cracked in the jaw. But that was not today. And Alateng, you know, was overmatched. I thought he would be. Did the job, and Gutierrez got the decision. For Gutierrez, I've got Kyler Phillips up next. I think that would be a really good fight. And I really like the idea of Alateng Haile against Ayman Zahabi. That would be pretty fun, I think. Don't you? Ashley Yoder versus Emily Ducote was not very good. Early on in the fight, I will say this. Yoder actually did look better as a striker. To be clear, bad, but better. She was able to land a nice head kick in there. She had a little bit better head movement than she usually does. Her boxing looked a little bit more attached to things, but at the same time, she wasn't really forcing the clinch, trying to use her size and her primary skill set, which is that of a grappler. And I did have her winning the first round. Two of the judges did as well. A lot of Twitter didn't. But like by the second and third round, Ducote had taken over. She was basically kicking the calf at will without a problem. She was landing the counter right hand at will to the eye of Yoder. It got busted up. Both eyes actually had big cuts above them. By the end of the fight, I didn't even notice that that it was both eyes because the one eye was so bad. But yeah, Yoder is not very good. And like that's the problem, I guess, at the end of this is that like it's like, yay, Ducote got a win, but like it's against someone who's just big and apparently doesn't really have a dedication to trying to find body lock takedowns. She's trying to do it towards the end, but like that's the thing is that once she started like looking for like the clinch and trying to land elbows and trying to land knees, her head movement went away and Ducote just started teeing off on it. So like, I don't know. Yoder is bad. I guess that's what it comes down to. For next opponents, I've got Julia Palestri for Emily Ducote. They're both like kind of undersized volume kickboxers essentially, but like Ducote is a lot more considerate, methodical, meticulous. Boom, that's the word. And it'd be a fun fight, I think. And for Yoder, I just hope for like retirement. Like you're 35 years old, you had 2 years off. You're clearly working on some things because, like I said, this, and I want to be clear here, the word is not good. The word is better. This is the better looking striking performance than previous ones, but she's got a decent grappling game and she doesn't seem to really know how to use it. And that's about it. So again, I hope she's had thoughts for life after fighting. Anyways, I'll call it a day there on this one. Not the longest recap, obviously. We'll be back for the next card. Let's have a quick look at the next card. Oh, yeah! We got a pay-per-view coming up. UFC 294, Makhachev versus Volkanovski number 2 on short notice. Not amazing, but hey, we're going to Abu Dhabi, so the card is pretty deep. Kamaru Usman versus Khamzat Chimaev, Magomed Ankalaev versus Johnny Walker, Ikram Aliskerov versus Warley Alves coming up to 185. Interesting. Saidnur Magomedov versus Muin Gafarov, Tim Elliott versus Mohamed Mokaev. Okay. I like that fight. I like that fight a lot. Mohamed Yahya versus Trevor Peek. Yahya's not ringing a bell. He's one of the UAE Warrior guys. Couple of decisions, triangle choke, couple of TKOs. I don't know. I'll have to look at him. Maybe. But the only name I'm recognizing on his record is Gavin Hughes, and he lost to Gavin Hughes. So that's not super promising. Javid Basharat versus Victor Henry. That's very nice. Cedric Dumas versus Abu Azaitar. Ashel Jubilee versus Mike Breeden. Mohamed Naimov versus Nathaniel. That's pretty cool. I like Naimov versus Wood. That's a good fight. Jinyu Fry versus Victoria Dudikova. Bruno Silva versus Arabutin Magomedov, who is 11-0. Oh, Bullet. Right. This is Bullet. I feel like people are like really, really excited for him because he does spinny shit. And I'm just gonna have a headache studying that fight. That's my immediate prediction. Anyways, check out the links down below or to the left, to the right, above, wherever they are, depending on where you're watching. Check out the MMA Simulator over on my Discord. Check out my streams, and I will be back on Thursday. Have a good one.